Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Chaplain. This will be a combination Pastor Reacts and Chaplain Explains video, reacting to the topic of the flat earth theory and where it intersects with religion. This is part one of 3 videos I plan on doing on the flat earth, as well as another one on the related topic of the manufactured conflict between science and religion. The other 2 parts in the Flat Earth series will be one short and hopefully humorous and satirical take on some of the flerfers, and the other a Chaplain Explains video on the history of the Flat Earth myth within Christianity. One day, a while back, YouTube suggested a Simon Dan video, where he debunked a silly flat earther with much English sass that we Americans find so entertaining. That led me to Katz, Professor Dave, FTFE, Creaky, and Team Skeptic. Their videos were quite entertaining and informative, except for one thing. Whenever one of the flerfs would quote the Bible, my brain would hurt and I would scream, "No, no, no!" And no offense to the other debunkers, they are not properly equipped to respond to those flerfs' faulty hermeneutics, which is my field, in the same way I am not properly equipped to do a science-based debunk like they do. But I do have whiteboards like Katz does. I figured that I would find that they hadn't done proper research, as they like to call it, but is really just watching YouTube videos in an echo chamber. So I have felt driven to respond to those flerfs. Nathan Thompson, Nathan Roberts, Hans Wormhat, Woketown, J.M. Truth, Joey Roche, D.I.T.R.H, and many others. To start off, I want to make it clear that the Bible is not a book of science. It does not teach mathematics, chemistry, physics, or biology. The closest it gets, in my opinion, and some of my peers disagree, is hygiene and sanitation, with the kosher and clean unclean rules that turned out to be scientifically sound. But anyway, the Bible is about history and pain and wisdom and love and redemption and ethics and comfort and challenges, and above all, it is about faith. What I intend this video to show is that the Bible does not support a flat earth. So those who push this falsity are either grifters like Roberts and Thompson, are apparently pathological like J.M. Truth and Roche, or more innocently just ignorant of what the Bible actually says and means because of language and translation issues. The firmament is not a real thing. It's a misunderstanding based on how the Bible was translated from the original Hebrew into various vernaculars through history. The idea of a firmament that the flerfs are peddling is not a Judeo-Christian concept, but an ancient Egyptian polytheistic concept that influenced translators at one point thousands of years ago. And the irony is that religious scholars see those verses that flerfs misuse to say that the Bible is a flat earth book are in actuality more fitting to support the reality of a globe earth. And while it is overinterpretation to say that the Bible supports a sphere, nowhere does it say that the earth is flat. There are many things in creation that are not spoken about in the Bible, and yet are still obviously true, and we must not ignore them or make ourselves blind to these truths. That is where the Deuteronomical test comes in, where while it's specifically applied to prophets, we can apply it to our own lives, and if you, it actually kind of sounds like the scientific method even. If something is proven true, it is to be accepted as true. And I did a Chaplain Explains video on this, link right here. Alright, so I went to Nathan Roberts' website, where he peddles a book and other products, claiming that there are over 240 Bible verses that support a flat earth. I figured that I would find some translation issues like idioms or allusions or other figurative things or just simple misunderstandings. And I would respond collegially, referring to Roberts as Brother Nathan and recognizing him as a fellow Christian. But what I found made me angry. I wanted this to be polite and cordial, but since one Nathan is trying to profit from this fraud, while another Nathan was arrested for harassing elementary school kids with screamings full of falsehoods, it hasn't ended that way. And, well, there was all that, what I suspected, to be sure, but also a lot of misrepresentation, confirmation bias, and even intellectual dishonesty. So much so that I had to use a thesaurus or else overuse those adjectives. I may have gone a bit overboard on that. I determined that going through all of Roberts' so-called claims should cover all the flerfers that misuse the Bible, and then using proper hermeneutical tools to hopefully accomplish a more accurate exegesis. You know, the over 240 Bible verses that proves a flat earth shtick reminds me of Eric Dubay and his debunked 200 proofs of a flat earth. Now, because this is going to be a long one, which is unavoidable, and because I want this to be definitive, and even used as a reference for the debunkers against those misusing the Bible, I therefore will put bookmarks in the description so you can jump around the video or skip portions as you wish. Any feedback on which section should be included in a shorter condensed version of this video, please leave it in the comments. And now the chaplain will explain how this examination of Roberts' claims was done. First things first, an overview of my methodology and impressions of Roberts after going through it all. Roberts used the King James Version translation, which is not considered a scholarly translation. It is better described as majestic, a grand poetic translation. It sounds very familiar to us. It's what's used in TV and films all the time. Another issue with the King James Version is that it is the sometimes shoddy translation. This is the version that used unicorn instead of rhinoceros or auroch, because to the English translators, a single-horned quadruped had to be a unicorn, like on a certain coat of arms. It has also been repeatedly filtered, so to speak. The original Hebrew, Aramaic, or Masoretic text of the Old Testament was translated into Greek, the Septuagint, by 70 Jewish scholars in Alexandria, which was then translated into the Latin Vulgate by Jerome, and then it gets into English with the King James Version. Roberts also cherry-picked from the Matthew's Bible, which is like a proto-King James Version, and then also the English Standard Version when it suited him. However, the preferred scholarly translation is the New Revised Standard Version, or NRSV. It has a more direct line to the original text, while noting the differences with the Septuagint, the Vulgate, with the Dead Sea Scrolls, and various other manuscripts. It is the translation used in seminaries and divinity schools. I remember one day in Old Testament hermeneutics, when asked, a student was read from the Bible, and the copy they had with them was King James, and there was a collective groan in the lecture hall. Alright, now the cherry picking shows that Roberts utilized the parallel Bible function on his online Bible, which I think he referenced using Bible Hub. And a quick note to Bible Hub users, on the pull down menu, NRSV is at the very bottom under the field Bible Study Tools. Now, using the parallel Bible is great to compare translations of verses side by side, to help comprehend what the translators are trying to get across. For example, as a kid, I was always confused by the start of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. We have all heard this. And what was going on in my head was, I thought that the speaker, David, was saying he didn't want the Lord to be his shepherd. And I'm like, that can't be right. And it wasn't until I saw it in parallel that I understood it. From the New International Version, it goes, Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. All right, I get it now. I understand. All right. Now with Roberts choosing those three translations, combined with some other stuff he did that I will get into soon, suggests to me that he just did a keyword search and picked what suited him. Now, King James Version and English Standard Version, I can see they are commonly used enough, but toss in a 16th century translation that, while important in the history of the development of the English translation of the Bible, it's not really used anymore, and nor is it used in this sort of situation. How I did my exegesis for this was to start with the NRSV Study Bible and read the pericope, check the footnotes to see if there were any translation issues or idiomatic considerations, and the brief commentary. Now, because Roberts and I are using two different translations, that is effectively a parallel Bible. But I do have a couple of actual 4 translation ones. And just double checking. And yeah, so I got 8 right over here. And there are various ones online that line up dozens of translations of them for free. Next, I consulted the Interlinear Bible, the most literal English translation, where the original Masoretic, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Koine Greek are presented with the English word below it and the Strong's reference number above. Then the direct English translation in the margin without any interpretation, only switching the word order to match English grammatical standards. 3 lines, hence interlinear. Finding the Strong's number is the key. Each word in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Koine is assigned a unique number. Then, using Strong's Concordance, you can see every use of that specific word in every verse it appears, and all the different meanings, including combinations of words or phrases that modify the meaning. And if different words were translated into the same word in English. Take, for example, Genesis 3, the forbidden fruit. What is it? What does the text actually say? Not apple, just fruit. We think it's an apple because Western artists used an apple in depictions of the Garden of Eden, and it just stuck. Now, according to my Old Testament hermeneutics professor, Dr. John Collins, the Strong's number for that, it was taken and checked against other uses of that exact word, fruit, in other ancient Hebrew texts, and from the context clues from there, we know that it was actually an apricot being referenced in Genesis 3. Now that's some neat detective work. Next, I used Bible dictionaries to check out key words, then the commentaries, both long and short form, and also specialized books, as well as online for periodicals. While doing this, I considered through whom we have received the text, that is source criticism, what genre and purpose it is, that's form criticism, and why the text is like this, that's redaction criticism. In this react, form criticism is going to come up a lot. This is the proper and professional version of what Roberts did, which was apparently simple keyword searches of the Bible in not the original language. Like searching for something in a document written after a game of telephone. This seems long and involved, and it should be, especially when using the Bible to make such grand pronouncements about the nature of reality. Honestly, if I was just doing a sermon, this would be overkill, but serious hermeneutics, yeah, all this should be done minimum. This is part of what made me so angry at Roberts' list. And now, it's back to the pastor to react. Roberts started with quoting John 3:12. It's not directly related to any proof, and I get what he is trying to do, as many religious-based treatises and writings start with a verse. But it is taken out of context, and is one of the many passages he used to try to manipulate people into taking him seriously or accepting his misinterpretations and misrepresentations. It's really about Jesus and Nicodemus going back and forth about signs, and that half of the chapter is about faithfulness. Now I will start with the unrelated stuff that has been distorted and embellished as proofs to clear away that noise. The vast majority of his list, honestly. Then we can focus on the serious stuff. I will present his claims just as he had presented them, using screenshots so that there is no way I can be accused of misrepresenting him. I need to note there is a bunch of repetition, luckily allowing batches at a time being dealt with. So, feel free to grab an intoxicating beverage. Couldn't hurt. Alright, first claim is that Genesis 1 describes the earth being created before the sun. 1, so what? And 2, it doesn't say sun. And it says light before water and dry land. Then the luminaries, the stars. I honestly don't know what he is on about, but a reading of the chapter does not seem to match his claim. Next, that the universe is complete, not expanding, based on Genesis 2:1, saying that the heavens and the earth were finished. This is unrelated to his claim, and it does not preclude an ever-expanding universe, and it doesn't even say universe. Anyway, so is this lack of imagination, maybe confirmation bias? And think about it. A living organism is ever growing. A baby is made. It is done and created, but it continues to grow. Or take a clock. A smith makes it, finishes it, but it keeps going. Then he took Ezekiel 45:1 wrongly in a way that made me facepalm. This pericope is referencing the setting aside of a large area of land as a holy district. It's creating a sacred space, like a temple or tabernacle or church or chapel, separating the clean and divine from the unclean and the profane. Roberts claimed that since it does not measure curvature, the world must be flat. But it doesn't say flat. This is more of the usual flat earth misunderstanding, reality, and creation. The world is massive. If you zoom in far enough on a soccer ball, it will look flat. He continued with this fallacy by citing Jesus' Sermon on the Plain, the Gospel of Luke's version of the Sermon on the Mount. And he did that semantic wordplay that flerfers like to do because it was on a plane. This is some serious stretching, man. Level is, yeah. Even more of this balderdash with his claim that paths are straight, not curved. He cited 12 verses from across the Bible, which were all along the lines of walk a straight path and do not stumble, or lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Being figurative and giving directions. It's just how we speak. This has revealed much to me of Robert's methodology and how inadequate and amateurish it was, as well as being more than a little dishonest. It became clear that he only did a keyword search for straight, but did not look at anything else in the verse or around it. There are verses next to the ones he cited that speak of the same concept, but do not use the word straight. And he did not cite them, though he should have from his perspective. And here's another way he was being misleading. He cited verses that were quoting verses he had already cited and counted them as if they were unique. He should have noted that. In the spirit of the Birdman, I ask, you padding the verse count, bro? I think you're padding the verse count. Next, he quoted Job 37:10, in which Elihu is speaking about God's power in nature and emphasizing the importance of water in Hebrew culture. Roberts uses it as the aquatic version of his plain blatherskite. It's just level. He claimed that earthquakes shake the earth and does not move. I don't know what he's on about here either. The three pericopes speak of earthquakes, but do not mention that the earth did not move. We have David's Song of Thanksgiving for being delivered from his enemies, a proclamation against Babylon by Isaiah, and the opening of the sixth seal in Revelation. This seems to go beyond stretching and is just mendacious. Did he think no one would check his work? Next, he cited verses that he claimed show that the earth is fixed and immovable. And he has misunderstood every one of them. In 4 of them, the word for moved, and do not expect accurate pronunciations throughout this, mout, Strong's number 4131, show that it is moved as in destroyed or fall down. And that's for 1 Chronicles 16:30, Psalm 93 and 96 and 104. What is hilarious about this is that Roberts repeatedly asserted that he studied the Hebrew and Greek words, but he obviously did not. He also pulled the same stunt where the Chronicles verse is actually quoting Psalm 96. Then Psalm 33:9, that is a poetic reference to listening and is describing music in heaven. Like, you were moved by the music. Quick sidebar. You got to understand the types of language being used in each book to help you understand what's going on. That's basically form criticism. Anyway, psalms are songs. They have to be understood as hymns, as musical poetry. Then there are the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Amos. The language found in their books is prophetic, so it's figurative and metaphorical, full of similes and allusions. Honestly, the same is true for a lot of the Bible, because it is trying to get across a message to us that we keep on not getting. Okay, pin in that. What happened? Alright, Psalm 119, 89 to 90. This psalm is about the covenantal relationship between God and the people. The word it stands, Amad, number 5975. And here, it has a more legal usage and sense. The covenant or contract has to do with the law, the Torah. So it's saying that the covenant still stands. It's still in effect. Isaiah 14:7 is an example of Roberts's deceptiveness or academic inadequacy, or possibly both. This pericope comes from a taunt directed towards Babylon. It says, "The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing." Besides being obvious that this has nothing to do with flat earth, it's saying that everything is peaceful. If you read the preceding verses, it describes how the bad, chaos-causing people of Babylon have been struck down, so the world is now at peace. I was hoping that I could go quickly through these, but Roberts' work is so bad that it demands long explanations in places. Isaiah 45:12. Nothing to do with this. Zechariah 1:11. An angel says that the earth is at peace. Shakat, number 8252, meaning quiet and rest. Hebrews 11:10 is referencing the foundation of the city of Jerusalem, not the earth. 2 Peter 3:5, again, there's nothing there. Psalm 46:10 was singled out for special notice. Be still and know God. The key word there, still, rappa, number 7503, means to hang limp, sink down, be feeble, abandoned, show oneself slack, idle, stay, give respite, lazy. So yeah, it's referring to a person.